Today, I want to share with you my top 5 favorite gift knits of 2025 and why they are my top 5 and my favorites. And stay tuned to the end because I have a plus one at the end. My name's Amanda and I love knitting. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm going to share, like I said, my top 5 favorite gift knits of 2025. And number 5 are a pair of vanilla socks. I took a sock class last summer and learned how to make cuff down socks. And when I was with a young lady that graduated from high school recently, I've known her since she was about 7. When she saw my socks, she asked me if I made them because she knows I knit. And when I told her I did, she loved them and asked if I would make her a pair. I know, a teenager asking for somebody to knit them something. So the pair that you see in the picture here are my own personal ones, and those were made with Barocco vintage sock yarn. The yarn that I chose for her were also pink because that's the color that she wanted. Were made from Heritage Cascade sock yarn. So she loves them, and what really makes them in my top 5 is that she asked me to make them, and when she sends me a selfie of her little feet in the socks and says how much she loves them and that they're keeping her feet warm, that makes me very happy. Number 4 is a pattern that I call Edween's Afghan. It was a pattern that my mother knitted literally dozens of. It is a feather and fan pattern. All I know is that I ended up getting the pattern on a little card from her in her handwriting when I asked for it, and I didn't really make one until after she passed away. I had made a few, but didn't make a lot of them. Last year in 2025, I took up knitting again. So January 1st, I decided I wanted to start knitting, and I cast on this Afghan that I'll share pictures of. And it is, I made it in Pound of Love by Lion Brand. So it's worsted weight, and the color is denim. And I really loved the color, and as I was knitting, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I have a lot of blankets and a lot of Afghans that my mom had made me. And I was thinking about how the summer before I was up for a family wedding in my hometown, and I got together with one of my great childhood friends. We had lost touch, but when I was up there, I wanted to visit with her, and we visited. And sadly, her mother had passed away as well, and she brought me some little gifts. She brought me a little yarn bowl with a lamb head on it, and some of her mother's knitting needles and things like that, and it really touched my heart. So as I was looking at this beautiful denim blue, it made me think of her eyes. She has beautiful blue eyes, and she always loved the color blue. And I thought, I can return the favor. She shared some of her mom's knitting with me, and I can share a little bit of my mom's knitting history with her. So I made this blanket for her, and I tied it up. I knitted a couple of little dishcloths to go along with it and mailed it as a surprise. And she was really excited to get it, and I hope that she loves enjoying using it and cuddling up on a warm night and thinking about how much I love her. Number 3, in no particular order on this list, are the Easy Owl Fingerless Gloves by Janis Frank. I'll pop a picture of the pattern up there. They are in somebody else's hands at this point. How this gift knit came to be is a friend in my knit group that I got started last year. She was one of the ones that came, and I taught her how to knit. She's been a long time crocheter, and she wanted to learn how to knit. But I had worn a vest that she really liked, and she said, I don't think I'm ready to knit a vest, but I really like that. And I offered to knit her one, and she took me up on it. So we decided, she told me what color she wanted. She wanted gray, and she requested acrylic. So I knitted it in loops and threads for her. and it was a worsted weight pattern, but that's not what we're talking about. I can get off topic once in a while. We're going back to the fingerless mitts. So anyway, I knew I was going to have leftover yarn, and I knew from going to her house that she loved owls. There's little owls all over her house, ceramic ones, ones on towels, different things like that. So I had found this pattern, and the Easy Owl fingerless gloves are a free pattern. They are knit flat, and to me they really were easy. There was just a little bit of cabling to make the pattern, and then I think they are seamed along the pinky side of the hand, and I want to say there were two or three sizes, and the patterns written for worsted weight. So anyway, that was really one of my favorite knits, because she loved the little add-on of the owl themed mitts, and she got her vest as well. Number 2 on my top 5 gift knits of 2025 is Barnstable. Doesn't really tell you what it is. It is a shawl. It's a little bit asymmetrical, and it is knit in 2 colors. It is a mosaic pattern. It was my very first color work. A friend suggested it to me when I was feeling intimidated by stranded color work, and she was right to suggest it. So it was a knit along last fall through Malabrigo, and the pattern designer is Lisa Haynes. I knit this shawl for myself in Malabrigo Aurora, and the colors were Archangel and Natural. It was a super enjoyable knit. I had so much fun. I am a fan of mosaic knitting now, so I highly suggest it if you want to try it. And so I was wearing it a lot this winter, and I have a good friend that I go to her home fairly often, and then she comes into my office to see me, and she had seen me wearing this shawl. I wear it more like a scarf with the really beautiful pattern in the front because I want to show off that really gorgeous pattern. And she kept complimenting me on it. And one day she asked if she could feel the fabric, and she commented on how soft it was. And I asked her if she'd like to try it on, and she said yes. And so I put it on her, wrapped her up in it, and put her in front of the mirror. And when I saw the look on her face, I asked her if she would like one. And she turned to me with a big smile on her face and said, "You would make this for me?" And I said, "Yes." It was so much fun. And I said, "I have leftover yarn from the project. I have enough to make you one." So I knit it up and I gave it to her, and she wore it all winter. She literally wore it. They keep their house cool. She wore it in their house every time she answered the door when I came over and it was cold. She had it on, and I know that she was a very worthy gift knit because I saw it this spring in a little plastic Ziploc baggie on the table by her door. And then the other way I know she was a very worthy gift knit is she talks about how she would wear it in the house, but she would take it off when she was eating because she was afraid to spill any food on it. So very, very beautiful pattern. If you haven't tried mosaic, it was one of my favorite gift knits because it was so much fun to make and it was so beautiful, but it really brought a lot of joy and happiness to my friend, and that's one thing I hope all my gift knits do for people. The last one on the list, and my favorite of the year, I think this deserves a drum roll, but I'm not gonna do that to you. If I can figure out how to edit a drum roll in, I will, is Frog and Toad by Kristina Ingrid McGowan. So if any of you recognize this picture, who's in this picture, Frog and Toad were my favorite childhood books. I was a young kid in the 70s, and it was just such a lovely book. And I can't tell you all of the stories of Frog and Toad, but I can remember how they made me feel. They made me feel like how I felt when I watched Mr. Rogers, and I loved Mr. Rogers. I know that's a little TMI. Anyway, back to why this is my favorite gift knit. So the story that came to be is I was very excited when I bought this pattern. I was going to make them for myself. I just couldn't contain myself. And then I Facebook messaged one of my nieces, and I just had a few questions for her unrelated to knitting, and she had made the comment. She said, I see on Facebook, I like to post some of my knits on Facebook, and we're friends. And she said, I see that you're knitting again. I really love that. I crochet, but I don't know how to knit. And then I just couldn't help myself. I had to share the picture of Frog and Toad with her and tell her, look, I found this pattern. I can't wait to make it. And she responded, oh my gosh, those were my favorite childhood books as well. And she said, I can't believe you found that pattern. That is so cool. Let me know how it turns out. So fast forward, that was in March. Fast forward to, I think, the beginning of the summer. I cast on Frog and Toad. I delayed it because I was a little overwhelmed. It's tiny knitting, and I hadn't knit socks in a very long time. And so that's when I took my sock class to kind of prepare me to knit with toothpicks again. And knitting the little arms and legs was intimidated. And then looking at the eyes and how the eyes were done was intimidating. I hadn't ever done anything like that. And the project was really important to me. So as I was knitting it, I was posting my progress, like when I got the legs on, and then when I did the eyes, and then when I stuffed them. And they were very popular posts on Facebook, including with my niece. She was always putting a little heart by them. And then I thought, she's an elementary school librarian, and these were her favorite books as a kid too. I think I'm going to package up this Frog and Toad, and I'm going to try to get it to her before school starts. And I did. And it was a surprise. I didn't tell her they were coming. And one day I picked up my phone, and it was a text from her. And she sent me the cutest little text of her holding them like this. And then she sent me this text of Frog and Toad amongst her books. And she said, when I saw the box and it had your name on it as a return address, she said, I thought, no, she didn't. And I said, yes, I did. So she was very, very happy and very, very excited for that. And so that's part of why, not just that Frog and Toad were my favorite characters from my favorite childhood book, but that I could bring a lot of joy to my niece and make her happy. And yes, I am going to knit Frog and Toad again for myself because I miss seeing them. It was hard to package them up and send them away. A little side note about the yarn that I used for Frog and Toad. I didn't go with the weight of yarn that was called in the pattern. I think she called for fingering weight maybe with all of it. But I did Barocco Vintage for Frog and Toad's bodies. I can't remember the exact colors. It might have been evergreen and maybe oatmeal for Frog and Toad. And then for the clothes, I used the Barocco Vintage sock, and I held them double, and I was just very lucky that the clothing fit them very well. So that is, I think that's all I want to say about Frog and Toad. But that was number one. That was number one. I promised a +1 if you made it this far. So the +1 was supposed to be a gift knit, but it didn't end up being a gift knit. I have a sister who is about 17 years older than me, and we started becoming good friends around 2012 or 2013. We didn't grow up together. She was in college when I was very young. I don't ever remember her living with us, but I do remember her visiting. And then after she got married, her husband traveled a lot, and they moved a lot and lived all over the world. So I didn't really get to know her until I was in my middle age. I'm going to pop a picture of my sister and I. Her name is Jan, and yes, I have permission to use her name, and pop a picture of her up there. This is one of my favorite pictures of us, and this is when we started becoming close. I was training to run half marathons, and she was training to walk full marathons. So she came to Kentucky from Virginia, where she lives on the coast, and we drove down to Bowling Green, Kentucky, and we participated in a half marathon together. She walked it and I ran it, and we just had a really good time. So fast forward to the gift knit of 2025 that didn't happen, I wanted to knit her sweater. I was really excited to make things for people, and I asked her if I could knit her a sweater, and she didn't say no, but she didn't say yes. Then about a month or so later, I thought I would try again because I am persistent, and I said, "Can I knit you a vest?" And she didn't say no, but she didn't say yes. And I started thinking, maybe she doesn't like to wear knits. Maybe she doesn't need new clothes. She does knit for herself, but she's not a garment knitter. And I also know her daughter knits and works in a knit shop and is very accomplished and probably has knitted her many things, so she didn't need or want anything knitted. So then the next part of the story is that I picked up hand embroidery. I hadn't hand embroidered in 25 years, and I picked it up at the end of the summer, and I found a little book and started practicing my stitching. And then I got online and started looking at different patterns and tutorials, and then I discovered needle books. And what a needle book is in the hand sewing world is it's a little book with felt pages, and you can store your needles in it, and you can organize them in the size needles that you want for the type of project that you're doing. I didn't know if my sister had one, but she does a lot of hand stitching. All of her quilts, she hand stitches everything, and she does embroidery, and she just loves hand sewing. So I was determined to make her a needle book. So I'm going to pop up some pictures of the needle book that I ended up designing and making for her. The front cover was a bird, and that bird came from a partial design from the book. And then the back cover with the flowers is also a partial design that I modified a little bit from the embroidery book that I found. And then on the inside, I put a little pocket in the front where she could store floss. And then there were, I think, 4 pages of wool felt that she could store her needles in. And then in the back cover, I put a little piece of ribbon with a lobster claw clasp where she could hook that ribbon through the handles of her embroidery scissors. And then I just did a simple enclosure with a little tie. I got a little overwhelmed and was afraid to put a button on it, and plus the button wasn't going to work good where the bird's face was. It just was going to muddy up the bird. So anyway, it was a surprise gift, and I sent it to her, and she loved it. And when she thanked me for it, I asked her if she had had a needle book, and she said yes. A family member a long time ago had given her one, but it was small and it had seen its better days, and she was very happy to get the new one and was getting started with getting her needles organized in it. So that is my +1. It was meant to be a gift knit, but didn't end up being a gift knit, but it ties as one of my favorites as my Frog and Toad gift knit for sure. So those were my top 5 gift knits of 2025 with a +1. If you've made any of these patterns, let me know if you've made them and how you liked them. If you want to try one of these out and I've inspired you to maybe try making one of them, let me know. Let me know how you feel about gift knitting. Are you a gift knitter? Some people don't like to gift knit, and I understand why. But I love gift knitting. This year I'm going to focus on knitting a little bit more for myself this year as I go through 2026. And I hope everybody is enjoying the projects that they're making or getting excited about things that they're getting ready to cast on. And thank you for watching my video and sharing a little bit of your day with me. Happy knitting. Bye, everybody.